You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Hi, Scott. What? Why are you getting weirder, by the way?
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I just excited to be here because of Bank of Blue Valley and Burns and Mac. How are you doing?
Well, I was just telling our panel that we usually talk a lot, and I feel like I haven't talked to you at all. What have you been up to?
Played phone tag on Wednesday. It's only been like a week. You remember the movie, what is it, Superbad, where they're on the phone with each other and then they get into the car and they keep talking?
Yeah, that's us. We should be like that. Why haven't you called me in a week? Where have you been? What have you been doing?
I don't think I've been doing a ton. I've been doing my job a lot recently because, I don't know, I just feel like doing my job instead of just being out and about connecting. But one thing you brought up that was really interesting, and that's a big reason why we do this show, is I think you said something about, when people are talking, really only people are thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why we have 4 panelists, which makes us very unique, and why Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell, I think, like us, is because we're having 4 different people talk about their world and how it blends in between. And I always tell people, when you go to an event, the only thing people care about is what they said at the event. And most of the time, people don't get the opportunity to talk. But this show, everyone gets to talk.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm becoming a bigger believer by the day that people only are thinking about themselves, right? So you got to figure out how you can relate to that to move anything forward these days. So
it sounds weird. I was literally this morning thinking to myself as I was running, I was like, am I a bad person because I think everyone thinks about themselves? Like, that's not a good way to live through life. And I'm like battling that. I'm like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Or is it good that we're understanding psychology? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, I think that people think of others, but 99% of the time we've been conditioned to think that people are thinking about us, like what we're going to wear, what we're going to do, they're not. They're thinking about themselves and what they've got to do and their agenda for the day and all of that. So I think it's a little bit of psychology, a little bit of, the way we grew up and everything like that. Wait, I want to go back to the part you said you were running.
Yeah, I've been doing it ever since. So little TMI. So got sick, run, vasectomy, start running again, but been running ever since the last 4 or 5 months since the surgery. So, but yeah, gotta keep, you can't do the old viral meningitis, encephalitis, West Nile strain virus without, following it up with working out.
Well, I'm glad that you are back. It looks like some people are having a little bit of technical difficulties. Get out and get back in. LinkedIn's just weird sometimes. So just get out and get back in if you're having some stuff. It looks like it's just some people and it's playing for me. So I always play on a separate screen. So just get out and get back in. I promise you won't miss too much. All right, let's say hello to everyone. Chase says, let's go, Tim Sherman. Lindsay says, so good to see you, Jennifer. Miss Linda says, glad to join in today. So tell us who you are, what you do, where you're watching us from. Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube? Is it LinkedIn? Let us know. If you're trying to watch on LinkedIn and having issues, go over to Facebook or YouTube. Just look up Drinks with Leaders. You can see that. So we've got Katie says, love seeing all these HealthJoyers here supporting Timothy Sherman. So it looks like Timothy, he brought a whole crowd. So cool. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's bring in our panel. Everyone's done talking to us.
You're a great DJ, so I'm excited.
Great DJ. Okay, let me get my DJ stuff. This is terrible. We've really got to find a better thing, but I'm just gonna keep playing it.
It's good.
All right. First up, we have Elizabeth, then Jennifer, Marc, and I made him wait to laugh because he's got all his fans here. Yay! Right. Fade it out.
Ooh, good job, DJ.
It was faded out like 3 seconds ago. Okay, I'm working on the DJ, but thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited. We're just going to jump right in. So, Elizabeth, we're going to start with you. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
I'm Elizabeth Souder. I come to Kansas City via Colorado. I'm a native. And went to college in Iowa and then came back to the Midwest after a stint in Boston to go to law school at KU. So Jayhawks, woo! Excited for the weekend. I am also a recovering attorney. So I am no longer practicing law. In 2019, I did a big jump to become one of the entrepreneurs who I loved supporting over the years. And I created my own consulting practice based on the foundations of organizational health, taking a whole health approach to organizations and how they are constructed, how they come to be, when they are flexing and needing to change, as so many have been doing recently. Really helping them beginning with their core values and helping them operationalize those all throughout their organization to optimize their health overall and kind of maybe avoid lawyers sometimes.
Elizabeth, you talked to me a little bit about in your progress through the corporate world of when you were having children and the demanding responsibilities you had as an executive. And now in the world of COVID, I mean, I feel like that's really changed, but in a lot of ways, you're setting the standard for large organizations and what they were doing with working moms. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have 4 kids. They are not so much children anymore. They are between the ages of 18 and 24. But yes, I started at Sprint PCS back in 1996 before the first cell tower had been built. And through the next 10 years of Sprint PCS migration into Sprint, I had 4 kids, and I wouldn't ever not do that. I think the entire experience of child rearing during the period of time in which I was doing it is itself a testament to what the impact of working moms in the workplace has done. I laughingly say when I came back from having my first daughter back in 1997, there were no such things as mother's rooms. So I would have to call the switchboard and get a conference room with no windows so I could go in and do my thing with the breast pumps and find a place to store it, in the refrigerator in a bag saying, please do not touch. And by the time my last was born 6 years later, we had full-on beautiful mother's rooms. We had 12 weeks of maternity leave. So there's lots of good anecdotes in between those. But quite honestly, it's women empowering women. It's men empowering their wives and their sisters and their soon-to-be daughters-in-laws. It's a collective effort, and it's the power of culture. I got to tell you, the power of culture and values, and just the importance of having different voices, disparity throughout organizations, and making sure that women do have a place at the table.
I love that. All right, Jennifer, we're going to get to you, but I have posted the YouTube link right here in the LinkedIn comments. So if you are having some trouble, we've got a lot of people watching today. So I'm guessing
very popular panel.
Yes. So it's just kind of not working for some people. LinkedIn's weird. We're still catching up, right? Technology wise. So can't always count on it, but we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook too. So I've posted those links over there. Jennifer, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
All right. My name is Jennifer Harvey, and I came to Kansas City in 1988. a long time ago. After moving so much, I really did think my parents used to be in the witness protection program. That is how much we moved, but came here from Florida, a very brief stint in Florida. And then my parents said, we're moving to Kansas. Lovely. But I absolutely love being here in Kansas City. I am team leader of the Jennifer Harvey real estate team with Compass Realty Group. I've been a realtor since 2004. Founded the Jennifer Harvey team in 2009, and we've just loved, we have a passion for real estate, probably in the top 45 of all realtors. There's like 12,000 now in the KC Metro, number 14 in Kansas. And we've just recently moved to Compass Realty Group, and that's been just a fantastic move for us.
So 2 questions. One, well, maybe that's probably too in depth. I was going to ask you how you structure the compensation of your team. Don't answer that. Let's go to the second question, because I'm always intrigued on how that goes, or if there's a standard practice. But the question I want to ask is, are you really good at multitasking? Because I feel like everyone in your position has a superpower of being able to take down 10 tasks at a time. And it's just so impressive. So do you have that? And do you think it's a superpower?
Well, I think that I probably have ADHD. That was never diagnosed, which makes me very equipped for this profession. Is it a superpower? I would say teaming that with being a mom. Yeah, when you put that all together, because it's not only just the real estate, it's being a good mom, good wife. My mother lives with us. So, juggling all of that. But you have to be a good multitasker, especially in this market, because it is probably the toughest market that I have ever seen in my almost 18 years of real estate. So yes, I would say I learned the art of that, and you definitely have to have that skill right now.
However, if you drive over to Western Shawnee at all, her name's on all of the boards. She's really killing that space over there. And she's also a theater mom, Scott.
I am a theater mom.
Whoa, great culture.
That's how we know each other. Yes. We've got boys in it, and that's always so fun, right? To have boys in it. So awesome. Well, I guess we have girls too, but I'm just focusing on our boys right now. They're the real competitive.
They're the stars right now. No pun intended.
The stars. Marc, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
You're on mute.
Well, I'll start over then. I'm Marc Shirley. I'm a partner with B2B CFO. Our firm offers strategic business advisory services to owners of privately held companies. We focus on increasing cash and company value. And I got to Kansas City. Well, the first time my parents brought me here, I grew up here. Grew up going to Chiefs games and the Royals games in the 70s, and went to Shawnee Mission North High School and then Rutgers College. In 1984, I was newly married and moved away. Went to Notre Dame for a graduate school degree, and then a 26-year career with the Procter & Gamble company. Most of that's Ohio and New York. And in 2008, we came back. We had taken on some children later in life, and they were aged 3 to 9. And my wife and I decided we needed to be back around when we had aging parents and we had family here. And this is just a great place. We chose to come back to Kansas City to raise those kids, and I've been really grateful. I left P&G and got offered a position, to buy into B2B CFO. So very delighted to be in this community.
So, Marc, I was going to ask you the question earlier about just how you vet clients, because with Jennifer, you're talking about being in the toughest market. And then for you, there's only so much bandwidth you can have with your partners. So you're very highly sought after for people to work with. How do you go about vetting soon-to-be clients in terms of like what you're looking for and what their business is looking for? Because people don't realize when they're reaching out to maybe Aaron at a Lily and James, or to a Marc, I mean, there's so much demand for your services. It's almost like everyone has to figure out how they can work with each other and interview each other.
Yeah. So prospective clients, we have a really, we actually work hard with our firm, and we have a really low pressure approach to where we want to give first and understand business owner needs early on. And the vetting really comes out, one place is, can you add value, and how effective are you going to be? And the other one is relationship stuff, whether you actually match what the owner would need. And then we have such a community here. It's really easy, if you're not a match, to refer somebody else that's going to be more of a help. It's first do no harm, add value. And then if it's right in my wheelhouse, but I don't have enough bandwidth at that time, I've got 150 other partners. We work nationwide. One of the nice things about going so much virtual is we can be right there, even if it's my Dallas partner or Chicago, or, folks that I actually collaborate with quite a bit.
Man, oh man, just a really popular person, Wi-Fi cutting out, Tim. So Marc, one thing that I always want to do, so I'm glad that we asked you another question, is I always hear so many stories about lessons that Procter & Gamble taught them. And so for you, I mean, I know you have a lot of lessons, but has anything recently come back to where you're like, man, that is a lesson I learned that I'm using today?
It's going to sound funny. When I was at Procter & Gamble, the standard was a one-page memo. Everything you did was a recommendation in one page, and you had a format, top 3 points. But if you couldn't make the case in one page, you could put a phone book of attachments to it, but it had to be one page. Forced really clear thinking, really clear writing. And I've gone through cycles. I am back to doing that. I do that often with all of my clients. To write really clearly a summary of what's going on and what I recommend is just a wonderful a way to align us both and make sure that we're really clear, and it just drives you one step further.
Did you ever work with Kim Yates at Procter & Gamble?
Kim Yates. It's not real. That don't know. And I'm
sure it's huge. She was just pretty high up, and eventually ended up here at Lead Gene. She's unfortunately no longer around, but she's amazing. But same thing, came back to Kansas City to raise children here. So your guys' stories were pretty familiar. Look who showed back up. Hi, Tim.
Woo!
We got a lot of people over here that are going to be really sad if you weren't here. So
yeah, I was going to say, you have a huge fan club. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City?
Yeah, I'm Tim Sherman. I'm the regional sales executive for the Central Midwest for HealthJoy. What we do at HealthJoy is quite simply connecting people with care. At HealthJoy, we simplify the healthcare experience. Our platform connects employees with the right benefits at the right time and makes staying healthy easy. And I love what we do. I think we give healthcare consumers a chance at fighting back against the complex healthcare system. And that's one of the ways I actually met Scott, is through a partnership we have. But I love the job because I get to meet with a lot of people and find unique solutions. And obviously, I don't know if I'd call them my fan club. I'd call them support group. I love my coworkers. We show up for each other, and they're an amazing group of people, and they're doing what I'm doing all over the nation. So it's really exciting what we've been able to accomplish as a company over the last 6 years. To KC, real quickly, I've got a kind of a unique journey, so I like to talk about it. But when I was 6, I was adopted from Romania by my parents here. Have an amazing family. I love them. I think the best thing they've taught me, I know Scott was asking about role models, but I'd say my dad. He's very civic minded and philanthropic. So that's a key takeaway I've taken. And one of the coolest things I've been able to do was become a big brother. I officially got matched about a month and a half ago, and it's just been awesome. It's been life-changing and enjoying the moment. I actually left Kansas City for a little bit after college with a job transfer, and it took me, people always ask me, how I do sales and why I do it. I think I'm good at it because I convinced my wife to move to Kansas City. So all her family's from Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. So I was in Minneapolis, but I always tell people I think I'm okay because I sold my wife to move away from her family and friends. because I just love Kansas City. If you grow up here, if you live here, it's just hard to really leave the culture and the city atmosphere. So, but that's me in a nutshell.
So I can say, because I'm on a podcast, but I know nothing about my business, but I know your company because the product's really cool, and people are going mobile for healthcare because if it's not in front of you, even though I do it for a living for healthcare, I would be the person that would like look across, like I guess back in the day you'd be in person enrolling in healthcare, you'd be like, hey, what'd you put down? Oh, okay, I'll circle that too. And so can you talk about how you decided to work for your company? I think a lot of people don't realize that within like 3-4 years, everyone should be doing all of their healthcare purchasing from their phone. So how did you pick your company and how have you seen the business grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So what really made me choose HealthJoy was their desire to be innovative, to utilize technology, especially text-based chat to really connect with employees through their smartphone. I think the smartphone has been the computer of the future, right? Since 2005 when Apple launched it. And what they were doing is really revolutionizing the employee benefits experience by simplifying it. But most importantly, connecting people to care. I think it's very simple to show that benefit strategies fail with member engagement, and we're able to be that kind of conduit to help engage members with their benefits needs. And that's the game changer. Like I said earlier, I think it's giving members a fighting chance against the convoluted healthcare system. And that's really what I enjoy about it. And there's just been tremendous growth and partnerships for us with outside vendors who've clamored to kind of join in on the fun, if you will. And we've had some really strong strategic partnerships in the broker channel sales. And one thing I want to mention is you mentioned empowering women. You notice that most of my fan club or support group, I want to call them, they're not my fan club, but they're all women. And that's one thing that I've loved about HealthJoy is that they've really promoted a lot of women. And we've got so many successful, talented sales reps who blow me away. And it's just been fun to be a part of that culture. So.
Well, there's quite a few over here. I wish that we weren't having technology issues, but it looks like people are moving over to YouTube, which is awesome. So, all right. Are you guys ready for our question of the day? It's pretty exciting stuff. You know what's so funny? We were talking earlier, Scott, about when people are thinking about themselves. And I try to very actively listen on this show, right? But it's so funny because I hear like, Elizabeth, I hear you're from Colorado. Well, I'm from Colorado, so that resonates. Jennifer, I moved around a lot as a kid too, right? So that resonates. Like you kind of hear something from everybody that resonates. So it's all kind of coming full circle of what we were talking about earlier. So Scott's like, all right, let's get to the question.
Well, I mean, Aaron gets mad because I talk too much, but the music on this video is really catchy. So I was actually really excited for it.
So you're excited? All right, here we go. And as soon as he's done asking this question, Elizabeth will let you answer.
Hi, my name is Eric Heidenreich. I'm an engineering recruiter with Burns & McDonnell, looking for the best talent every day. We're all not perfect, but how do you handle mistakes?
Elizabeth, you are on mute, but it's a good segue.
So I had to own it. You have to own it. Didn't hit mute. Now, owning it, obviously, that's the first thing you just got to do. And because then it's time to move on and learn from it and, make amends. But too oftentimes people try to dance around, blame game, etc. Stand in your truth and own it.
Well, where did you pick, where did that come from? Was it family? Was it Sprint? I mean, where is that what you preach? I mean, where does that get grounded in you?
Well, I think I am someone who I don't like to get too wrapped up in failure and mistake in terms of, root cause analysis, except to the extent you can help it not happen again. I really like to move forward and learn. I mean, believe me, not only am I a mother of 4, I was a practicing attorney for 25 years. I made a lot of mistakes. And if you spend too much time wallowing in that moment of ick, you're not moving forward and really becoming a stronger person because of it. And you're also showing others, right? All of these people here are all leaders. And as leaders, I think that that's the best way to model. COVID's been great. We've all been on Zoom. We see our messy lives. Same deal, right? Leaders need to step up and take responsibility for mistakes and acknowledge them as part of a human existence.
Jennifer, how do you handle mistakes?
Well, I'm going to agree. The first thing you have to do is own it, because that's very important. You need to take responsibility and ownership. And then, nobody likes making mistakes. I mean, my face always gets red, super embarrassing, but then you need to take that and learn from it. What can I do better the next time? In real estate, we don't win every deal, and I'm a very competitive person. So when I don't, it's always a time for growth. Go back and learn, okay, what mistake did we make? What can we do differently next time? And I think when you have those moments, it's how you become better and really can grow.
So randomly, I was on the phone with someone that was in the mortgage banking side, and he was wanting to do a peer group, and I love that topic. And he was like, no, people in real estate need to know each other, because even though they compete with each other, they work with each other. Yeah. So how does that go in terms of mistakes and owning it? Because it's not you and your team's mistakes. They're your partner's mistakes. So how do you handle cohabitating with people that are your competition, but yet your friends?
Well, that's very important. It's one of the reasons that we came to Compass, because there's no egos here. Compass is an invite-only company, so you have to be the best of the best to be invited to be a part of this amazing company. And when they say no egos, there are no egos. Everybody learns from everybody else. This morning we had a meeting where, somebody's lender had made a mistake, and how can we, that still stops with me, by the way. If I refer somebody and then they unfortunately don't do what was promised to the client, I'm still going to take responsibility for it, because I'm in a way the quarterback of the whole deal. But we do definitely learn from each other. And, when you have somebody that's a mentor, which I definitely think in any business you need to have, you learn from each other, and they can also hold you accountable. So I definitely believe in that. And everybody on my team has an accountability partner besides, myself that coaches, because that's how, again, you grow and you learn.
I like that. That's a great answer. Yeah. Real estate is one of those things where you're counting on so many people, and it's so out of I'm too much of a control freak. I don't know how you Marc, how about you? What?
I had to learn to delegate a long time ago. So it's not easy, but it definitely gives you more time at home and, frees you up a little bit, but you got to have the right people in those positions to help you.
Marc, how do you handle mistakes?
Aaron, sitting here across from Scott, I have to say deny. No, I'm not. I'm actually not surprised by what I've been hearing here, but I love what Jennifer said about no ego. You have to have a sense of humility and a sense of transparency as you go into these things. We are human. You have to tell people what you do have to own up to it, but ask forgiveness, make restitution as best you can, have a sense that you're going to move on, keep the relationships whole.
That's good. You're good, Marc. Good answer.
But what do you have, like with mistakes with clients? I mean, it doesn't happen, but you probably can predict them that are coming out. And I always say information in and information out is still a people thing. So, how do you deal with that with your clients? Because, the client is always right. But, how do you deal with that in a difficult situation, especially when it's their financials of their company and their baby?
Oh, yeah. But, there are times when I disagree. I guess I'll go ahead and say disagree or have a different point of view than a client. It'd be really poor practice for me not to give it. They're hiring me for a reason. And again, a sense of humility. I'm not always right, and sometimes I'm wrong, and we have to make it right. I really have a sense of wanting to have them go away feeling like if I was part of a mistake or we made a wrong call, that they didn't have to pay extra for it or that sort of thing. But business, even small business, really complex. You're gonna take the best data you have. You're gonna make the best decision you can. But there's a difference between good decisions and good outcomes. So we have to just acknowledge that you can do everything right and still end up with an unfavorable outcome.
That's a good point of view. Tim, how about you?
Yeah, I just feel like these guys are thunder stealers. You put me after 3, and I'm having to sit here saying, okay, well, what do I come up with that's different? I would say that, I think there's one prevailing theme here, and I think that's no ego. And funny enough, at HealthJoy, we have 5 core values, and that's being open-minded, no ego, accountable, deliver joy, and care. And I think all those go into really talking about owning mistakes, right? And so you have, and you just said it, you have to be willing to be humbled. So it's owning the mistake, but not only owning the mistake, how are you going to correct it? And sometimes the correction isn't going to fix everything, but at least you're trying to do that. And that's one thing I love about our organization, right? So we're being held accountable. We're open-minded, right? So we have to say, okay, how do we get from A to B once the mistake's made? And then it's really making sure that we've level set ourselves not to make the same mistake. But I think the biggest thing is we have Slack. I'm sure some of you or those watching utilize Slack. And we have what's called Everything Sales Team at my company, and we utilize that for everything. Hey, this conversation went wrong. Hey, what do you do if this happens? Hey, how do you fix this solution? Hey, this is what's going on in the marketplace. And so that really just open communication within the organization allows for fixing mistakes as well. And that's just allows you to understand someone's probably faced that issue before, made that mistake, owning up to it, finding the solution, and then moving forward without, holding your ego high. And at 37, it took me 36 years to learn that. So it is really a cool thing, though.
Aaron, how do you handle mistakes with you and your team?
I think that I'm just really quick to say, so I'm pretty lucky that we're in digital, so it can be changed usually pretty quickly. So just very early on, I said, our bad, we'll get it changed. And then we go back and we look at the process of where my project manager and I, once a week, we look at the holes in our business. So anything that happened or anything that could be done better. And we ask our team to be really, really outspoken about that. And then we plug any holes, but we do that every single week. And, you think that you got all the holes until the next week, and then you find the holes. So I think we just own it, right? I am lucky that a lot of times I don't believe in too many marketing emergencies. Right. So some people are in a lot bigger, Jennifer, if she messes up, someone could leave their dream home. That's a lot bigger than your social media post.
Yeah, I feel like, Aaron, you and Jennifer are in a different situation. I kind of want to ask Tim another question. Tim, I feel like you and I are similar. Like our mistakes are subjective. So you don't really kind of have a conclusion of like, did you mess up or you didn't mess up? And so for you, how do you go about that? Because there's always a mistake on service that can happen, and I get the owning it thing. That's leaders have to take responsibility. Period. You can't blame anyone other than the top. But how do you deal with making mistakes subjectively? Is it just bouncing feedback off, or how do you think about that? Because you sometimes just don't know how you won or lost.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding and asking. Again, that goes to the no ego. You have to be willing. So if you build good partnerships and you have open communication channels, you have to be willing to ask. You have to say, how'd that go? What went wrong? How could I have done it differently? So you're right about it being subjective, but I think we have this tendency to let ourselves kind of self-loathe or let it make it more of a mental game than it is. And by subjecting ourselves to open criticism and honest feedback, we can really then understand, okay, what was the scope of this mistake and how far does it go? And I think, like you said, with service, I'm always going to own that anyway, because our service team's amazing. And that just happens sometimes. But it's really, okay, if we are on a demo with a client together, or if I don't, return a deadline, it's really, what did I do to let this situation down? Give me your feedback on the effect, the lasting effect that I'm not maybe even seeing. And then it's just, trying to fix it in the best way that's possible for you guys. So I hope that answers your question.
No, that's wonderful. I love that. The subjective part, especially when it comes to sales. I had a friend yesterday and she was trying to get us to win her new company. She's new there. Business. And we met with them, and I'll own that I'm terrible at follow-up, right? And I shot her a couple messages, text messages, to see how it was, what was going on throughout the time. But yesterday she sent an email and she's like, I wanted to let you know that we went with another company. Totally understandable, because I'm so bad at follow-up. She goes, but here is where your strengths were against everyone else, but here is why. And it ended up being because I didn't follow up with the owner, which I should have. Totally, right? But I thought that was so nice as a friend to be like, I want to tell you why you lost business so this doesn't happen to you in the future. So I kind of thought that was cool. She kind of forced me to see it, and then I used it as a learning lesson, right? So
that's so cool that you opened up about that, Erin. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I thought it was pretty awesome of her to tell me, right?
Yeah, just hang out with me. I just I mess up a lot, so you never know when things happen. Ooh, no pun intended. So for Erin, are we moving on to the icebreaker section? Or are we
No,
doing
we're not. We're only
trivia?
35 minutes in. Calm down. All right.
Scott, you were saying fudge, right?
That's
Yes,
right.
you said
You
fudge
know it.
when I send my letter to LinkedIn. So fun fact, if you want to know what we're talking about, you are absolutely not allowed to cuss on LinkedIn. I tell everybody this pre the show, and I have to send a letter if anybody says the entire word, but since no one said the entire word, we don't have to do anything today.
You know what's funny? It's the biggest angel that we've ever had on the show, Dr. Michelle Robin, who's just a delight for everyone in Kansas City, did exactly what I did. And it's so funny, 100 plus shows in, you never know.
All right, so let's talk about 2022. Can you guys believe it's the end of Q1 this week? That went so fast, right? But we still have 3 quarters left, so I'm sure we're all evaluating, was the first quarter different than these past couple crazy years? So, Elizabeth, let's start with you. What are your goals this year, and are you on track to hitting them?
Yeah, I am. I'm on track. But I'm doing my own adjusting along the way, because I just found, and Scott and I have visited about this, the whole fractional marketplace in Kansas City is just full of really incredible people, incredible talent, many of whom are sitting right here on this call and listening, and finding new partnerships. Scott introduced me to a rock star recently, and she and I are already doing a deal and partnering together. And finding like-minded people who I can trust to come in their areas of expertise when I'm working with a client has really enriched just my whole thinking in a much bigger way about those goals. So I'm kind of supercharging my own goals here a little bit as I adjust into the second quarter, just looking to expand the network and of people that I get to work with around the area. So I'm very team oriented. So I love having a team. That's one thing I miss about being an entrepreneur at the moment is having that daily team interaction.
What does an ideal client look like for you, and what is the work you do for your clients?
So my ideal clients, I've been very fortunate that I haven't had any that aren't. There are those who they're in a time of change, and my latest client is coming out of COVID, and thank heavens is trying to think differently about how going back to work looks. So hey, we made it through the last 2 years. Not quite sure how, lots of pivots. What do we want to learn from that? Because it was a great opportunity. And if people aren't seizing this opportunity to think about what all that was learned in the past 2 years, it's such a miss. So how can you take this moment and say, okay, let's go back, but what does going back look like? And let's make it look authentic to our organization. Let's supercharge what we were really, really good at and see what we can do to either correct the areas and realign them to move forward. So really any leader who is passionate about thinking in a broad way about their organizations and aligning them for success from top to bottom, from soft skills down to operational level, but is just struggling with the how. How do I do it? I know that this is what I want to do, but I'm missing some of the tools. Be happy to talk to them.
Entrepreneur wise, my tricks when I'm missing. I have a team now, but we've gone to all virtual. Peer groups and co-working spaces where you just get a hot desk so you can go in and see people walk. That's what I've been doing. I went to PlexPod. I go there maybe once a week just so I can see people walk, and I kind of feel like I'm on a team.
There's that energy again. Yeah.
So those are my tricks.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Jennifer, 2022, you're coming out of a crazy, you might still be in it. I don't know. I bought a house during this, but what is 2022 look for you, and are you on track for goals?
We are. And, we did something different this year. I don't know if you've all heard of the 12-week year, but we decided to implement that because it always happens in January, and especially in real estate. You're like, oh, we did so great. Now it's like, okay, you're at zero. Here you go again, starting your volume over. And you write it all down. And then as the year goes on, you're like, oh, I'm so far behind the 8 ball. Like, how do I catch up? So what the 12-week year does is it allows us to set our goals for 12 weeks. We choose 3 particular goals that we want to do individually and then for our team. And then every Monday I have calls. Okay, what did you do? Kind of like we're talking about, what was good for you last week? What wasn't? How can you succeed? And it has made such a big difference. It's kept everybody so motivated. We end our 12-week year. It doesn't quite follow the quarter, just kind of when it ended up starting, but we're going to end it, I think, on Sunday, and everyone has made their goals. And so we'll have a spa day to celebrate, and then we'll take that week off, and then here we go again. So that's been really fundamental this year for us. And we're probably at the start of our best year that we've had. So that really speaks volumes, but I highly recommend that book, The 12-Week Year.
What are some of your personal goals that you have? And then for the business, personal, professional goals that you talked about, what are those for you? I know you have your team's goals, but what are your goals?
So one of my goals, which also does go into the team, but was really important to me, was to grow my team this year. We've been very fortunate to do a lot of new construction in the KC Metro, but we're having our neighborhoods kind of die down, and I'm not really sure if we're going to get new neighborhoods. So I wanted to be able to bring some new agents on the team. I loved coach. It's one of my favorite things to do. So right now we're actually looking for at least one seasoned agent to bring on the team. So that's a big goal. And then for me, I wanted to challenge myself to bring on some new business. And I've been fortunate enough to do that. Also marketing. I wanted to market Erin a little differently. And she led a class. And I am fired up after her class. It was amazing. So one of my goals for the next 12 weeks is to start our own podcast, not necessarily on real estate. I have a partner. We're going to actually be talking to moms. Erin, we'll probably have you on, moms that motivate and inspire us. So my big word for the year was integrity. If I said it, I had to do it. So I've made the mistake now of saying it to the team. So it has to happen. So that's going to be a big goal too. So I have no clue how to do it. I'm excited to be on here today because it's like, oh, this is really cool. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And then finding a new church. That's a personal goal. Our church dissolved. And so really would like to find a new church that my husband and our soon to be 17-year-old tomorrow likes. My other 2 in college.
Jennifer, real quick question. As a business nerd, I always thought that K7, K10 corridor was always going to be rolling. Is there a slowdown in home building? And just from an economic reason for Kansas City, I mean, why is that? Is there building going on in other parts of the metro? I just always saw that as a continued green pastures.
It's a great opportunity for someone. And the issue that we're having, if you look at Lenexa, and this is no offense to Shawnee, because I love Shawnee. I've lived in Shawnee for 22 years, but Lenexa brought in commercial. They brought in so many business opportunities, and they brought that city center in with shopping. They have the community center. Unfortunately, Shawnee has not chosen to do that. And so, it's really hard to get developers when you don't have the commercial. We kind of have to have the commercial first, then we can do the residential, and then we can allow for the restaurants and the businesses. So I think until Shawnee kind of maybe changes and decides, yeah, this is something that we really want to delve into. We may not see as much of that, but I do have one neighborhood that is going to be starting a new phase. And I think we'll trickle down to that, kind of a little bit more in the Western Shawnee. Olathe has done it, and they've done it very well too in Western Olathe. So we just kind of need Shawnee to pick up the slack a little bit there, because I love Shawnee and I really want it to be successful.
It's a big old city thing every single time. We just moved out of Shawnee, and every single time you got on both of those. So there's a little bit of stuff you can research, Scott. City of Shawnee. All right. Marc, how about you? 2022 goals?
I'd say, well, actually running well against financial goals. So business goals, to think about it. And it was kind of a surprise. This time last year, 2021, business took off, not just for me, but other folks in that fractional area. And everybody I was talking to was the phone was ringing. And we've stayed on that tear, and it has raised expectations for 2022. And a lot of my gains have to come through more efficiencies or working well with my other partners. The other area that we're doing is a new business model. Because we have some deep expertise across our partnership, we're taking a group of kind of subgroup of our partners, and we've identified an industry we think is ripe for standardizing businesses and setting them up to roll up for acquisitions. And we want to actually become a catalyst to that and provide those kind of services right into that space. And this year will be the test run. So then we may do that with other industries to go. So it's a really kind of a breakthrough idea for us. And then I was telling Scott about this. I'm finally, after a couple of years hiatus, I had a little health problem and it slowed me down. But I used to ride road cycle all the time. And I'm going to start out. I'm going to make sure I'm doing at least 2 15-milers a week. And that'll grow back to something really that's pretty light for a road cyclist. So that's the and that goal hasn't really got started yet.
Are you going to be smoking a cigar while you're doing it?
No, that's after.
Oh, okay. and then real quick, why is that so exciting to be involved in the transitioning of the businesses and the perpetuation plan? You're helping them realize a sale, which is the most fun thing I think in business, but it's something that your company is doing as well. So why is that so exciting? And you have services in terms of software valuations to help you do that.
Oh, we actually have some proprietary software and tools to help owners prepare for a sale. But what we're looking at as an industry to where it's highly regulated, and some of the regulations are making it harder for the smaller players. And we really think that we can offer those players an opportunity rather than to just potentially sink or fail or have to sell at a fire sale. We actually think we can help those owners identify a way to become really valuable in a strategic selling process. And that's just right in our area you end up, I would say myself and the people I'm working with have a real passion for our business owners to win. Anybody that's making payroll and running these businesses, all too often they have everything included, every spare minute in the business. So it's impossible not to want to see them win.
Can I ask a personal question? When your clients make payroll, I made payroll right before the show. Is that the hardest part of their month? I'm always like, how much?
To a great degree, it's kind of the litmus test. It's probably the biggest in many businesses. It's the one biggest expense. Mm-hmm. You can't defer it. You have to make it. You have to be there on time. So even if cash is really good and they even have some reserves, you can tell there's just this kind of thing over here. Am I gonna have a problem? Is it going out? Are we safe to make payroll?
All right. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that feels like that. I'm just always like, oh, all right, push the button, Aaron, push it. So.
And that's, that is one of the greatest benefits you can give an owner is to relieve some of that. But even if, like I say, even if they've ever had to kind of climb up that way, they never forget. They just never forget that point.
Tim, how about your 2022 goals?
Oh man, I have so many, but personally, I want to become a better husband. So I have a 3-year-old and a 16-month-old, and my wife's amazing. I didn't mention her originally when the show opened, and I feel horrible. So I have an amazing wife who's nothing but supportive. Talk about COVID in 2020, us moving from Minnesota to here. She is like just a rock star. And then, I think I'm a good husband, but, we can always be better, right? And I want to finish my MBA. I should graduate in the fall from UMKC, so super excited about that. One of my personal goals is always to expand professionally and personally. So I always want to get better. And I think there's a lot of people who tell you there's room for growth. But financially, I crushed it last year. I think what you were just saying, 2021 was great. It took off last year. And 2022 is looking good. We've got a lot of good partnerships. So my goal is more so to build more strategic partnerships throughout the Central Midwest region. It's really finding those consultants who are looking to drive that engagement and provide an innovative solution to help members become better healthcare consumers. Because I think I see a lot of great consultants who do the work to provide cost containment solutions and really do that analysis. But then finding that tool to put it in the member's hand is the key. So I'm on target to hit it, or so I think so. Maybe others would disagree, but I've got a lot of great stuff in the pipeline right now, and we've really taken off. So, and meetings are starting to come in. And one of the things I'll tell you is, having been with my company now for almost a year and a half, those relationships are really starting to show. There's trust that's been built. So those relationships are really starting to give us recommendations and put us in front of their clients. And that's been the most rewarding part of it all, is just seeing that trickle in. So.
Awesome. All right, Scott, guess what time it is? We've got 8 minutes left. All right. So quick answers, but I do not have the game that we usually play. So Scott gets to do one of his favorite things in the world, and that is ask an icebreaker question.
See, you know what? We should have talked, because we've been off on the back and forth in the pitter patter of like the questioning and not questioning, and then how we get through it. So thank you, Aaron, as always, for putting up with me. And I'm not going to ask the question, what was your favorite cafeteria food in the lunchroom? Aaron really doesn't like that one. But we're going to ask a deeper question, because we have amazing leaders. And that is, when you took off in your career, Elizabeth, was it, and when you sparked and you started hitting it, was it because someone inspired you, or was it despite someone that motivated you?
I want to say it's a little bit of both, but I think it really was the permission I was granted, and it was more inspiring than it was a challenge necessarily. But it was honestly just the faith of the people that worked at Sprint PCS back when I started, who said, "Hey, we got to get stuff done. Common sense. We don't have policies. Let's just get it. Let's just move." And it was sort of that permission to just, okay, go out and figure it out. This is your second job out of law school. And we've got 72 retail store leases we got to negotiate in the next year. Go get it done. And making up rules as I went. And so it was a challenge that I rose to, but it was more that permission and feeling, again, part of the team. Teamwork is a big thing for me. I played basketball through college, so I'm all about the team and success as a team.
Yeah, fun facts before we go, Jennifer. Sprint was $26 billion at its top, and Sprint PCS was the fastest growing company in the history of the world at the time. With Cerner selling, we have two $2 billion companies. So food for thought. Sprint was pretty big for Kansas City. So Jennifer, was it someone that inspired you or motivated you and told you you couldn't do something?
Well, I've definitely been inspired by a lot of great real estate agents over the years, but I'll never forget, I will not say the real estate company that I was with, but they really believed in these personality tests. And I was trying to be the I'm not going to say because people know out there real estate, the company, but they have leaders within their company. Okay. Not necessarily brokers, but leaders. And I did this test and the person said, oh, you know, this is determined that you're really a better assistant than you are a team leader. Well, I don't want to talk about ego because we said we don't have that, but I am a little competitive. And I thought, oh, what do you mean? You don't think I could be a team leader? So that definitely was a day that motivated me to be like, I want to prove this person wrong. And I want to be able to show that I can lead a team. And I think the 2 weeks later is when I decided I wanted to do new homes, and we got, you know, our feet wet and got our first new home subdivision. So I do like a challenge a little bit. I like to, so I like that.
Marc, did someone motivate you, or did you kill it despite someone?
You know, I'll describe the situation that I think was pivotal for me, and it was at Rockhurst College at the time. It wasn't called Rockhurst University yet. A philosophy teacher who ended up taking several classes from you have to take a lot of philosophy there. But I went in as an older student. My dad says, you know, I made the top half of the high school class possible. I was a terrible high school student. I didn't think I was a good student. I started back at night at Rockhurst, and then finally, you know, went day, and I ran across Father Freeman. And I was a little older, and I wasn't very humble. And he intimidated the heck out of me. I mean, spelling counts, well thought out things, define your language. He made me think, he made me write, he made me read and bring stuff back. And he taught, you know, the Socratic method where you're in a circle and you have a discussion. And he just flat. So I would say he just at first challenged me. When I ended up the last class I took with him, and I was really tired. I remember this was the greatest gift ever. He came to me just for the final. He said, you know, you got an A, you don't have to take it, which meant I could go do other stuff. I mean, that was the coolest gift I've ever had. So I would say he started out really kind of intimidating me and pushing me, and then he ended up really encouraging me.
Nice.
So Tim, did someone make you mad, or did someone inspire you?
You know, I'm just sick of having the thunder stolen from me. Like, I'm excited to hear these amazing people, but they're just taking my thunder.
They were buying us drinks at the bar. You could they beat you.
They're motivating you.
I'm the only one with a drink here, by the way. It said drinks with leader, and I poured myself with. No, you're all drinking. There you go. The rest of
water.
That doesn't count. But anyways, no, I would say that, you know, I've had both, but it really comes from being competitive. And, you know, there's two things that fuel me outside of being competitive. When a company invests a lot of money into you and time, there should be that sense of ownership and that repayment, if you will. You got to prove your worth. And so it's not necessarily that someone doubted me, but I want to prove that I was worth that investment, that time that they spent on vetting me, and that time they're spending on educating and training me. And the other thing is like someone that inspired me is my dad, because he's incredibly successful. I mean, top 1% of people. And it's one of those things where I tell people, he said something very powerful to me a few years back. And it's just, he's like, you're losing because you're trying to measure yourself against my footsteps, and you need to measure yourself against your own footsteps. And I'm never going to match those footsteps. It's just not going to happen. He's an amazing person. But when he said that, it really changed my perspective. And so it's, you know, I've worked hard to associate myself with great leadership. And I'm going to call him out. He's probably not watching. He's a Tim Sherman fan club guy, but he's busy. Is Jeff Dorfman, someone Scott Havens knows pretty well, but he's a great leader. My time when I started at HealthJoy didn't start well, but Jeff took over as leader due to some situational things. And it was an amazing move, both by the leadership, but for Jeff. And Jeff invested, and he really motivated and inspired me to grow myself, to challenge myself, and the support was there. And so it's really why I've been doing well. But really, you know, in the current situation, Jeff, long-term, my dad, and it was just resetting expectations, right? Don't walk in someone else's shoes, create your own shoes and set your own expectations so you don't feel like a failure compared to someone else.
What a great way to end the show. You killed it. Good
Finally.
job. See all that hype.
Amazing. Finally, I got mine. No, I'm just kidding.
All that hype. Okay, first of all, I want to apologize for any tech issues. Sometimes it's out of our hands and the platforms are the platforms. If you missed any part of the show, you can go over to YouTube and watch it. I want to thank our sponsors, Bank of Blue Valley and Burns & McDonnell, so much. I want to thank our entire panel. They are all tagged on LinkedIn, so you can go connect with them, meet them, know them, support them. And Scott, I want to thank you for dealing with me because you thanked me earlier for dealing with you.
Don't pretend. You have to deal with me. You run the whole show, so I'm lucky. But Aaron, you got to wrap it up.
We will be here same time, same place next week. Hopefully better tech. I'm going to put in a support ticker right now. We really appreciate y'all, and we will see you next week. Have a great week.
Thank you.